Live now, Andy.
Uh,
And Andy
yeah,
forgot to
yeah, I
take off
know.
his jumper. Well, it wouldn't be Horage going live
Yeah,
if there
and
wasn't
let
some
me.
kind of small disaster happening at the start. Hopefully, though, our lip sync is good because please do let us know. Apparently, that's
600
the magic
milliseconds
number.
to
But if
be
anyone in the
precise.
comments thinks our lip sync or the sound is out, if it's too high, too low, please let us know in the comments so that Andy can footer about with buttons in the background.
Yeah,
I guess the reason we're here is to talk all
and
about what happened in 2025, Andy.
yeah, is it already gone?
It is. It is
2025
pretty
over or
close, to
what?
be honest with you. I think we've got a mere matter of about a day and a little
I
bit. Tomorrow in Scotland is Hogmanay, which is probably more revered than Christmas is because it means everyone can go out and get drunk and get a bit mad before the new year starts.
I actually got stuck in FedEx
I was
overkill
there with you.
exercises because some people actually you were there with me. But it's a good reminder that we need to get back into doing the regular things, which means packing and shipping watches and not leaving that to anybody else working here in the company. And we should also be able to do that. Just need to get a
Yep,
little bit back into things.
absolutely. It all
But
worked
it
out.
worked
We
out.
managed to get, I think,
So,
somewhere around 25 or so, maybe 30 watches out, well, just before the end of the year, because we promised we would get as many watches out as possible. I think the thing I was most impressed about was we got out, well, more than what we promised of the first batch of the Autark Tourbillon GMTs, a watch that we only released a mere few weeks ago, and we said we would ship the first 15, I think we promised, to be shipped before the end of the year. And we managed to get, I think, something like 18 or 19 of them out. So that's great. I believe the first few may have landed already. Please bear with us if yours hasn't landed, unfortunately, with FedEx, Christmas holidays, New Year, people taking vacation, etc., etc. And just because, of course, the extra volume of parcels at this time of year, everything takes a little bit longer sometimes to get through the system. So there may be a few, well, delays just with things getting stuck up in the system. But I'm sure within the next few days, all those watches will have landed in their rightful homes. So
sound? By the way,
no one's
sound seems
complained
okay. Nobody
yet,
complaining
but let's
at the
keep our
moment.
fingers crossed and hope that
Yeah,
that doesn't
yeah,
actually go anywhere. So let's get into it because we've got a lot to cover actually.
yeah,
2025 was, well, to be honest, Andy, we looked back at it and
yeah.
we've done a lot this year, not just developing projects that launched in the 2024, like the Revolution 3 Micro Rig, but all new releases, completely new watches, new iterations of existing models, and well, what we believe is a world's first, which was launched towards the back end of the year. So here's a little slide up. Some of the things that
Hmm.
we launched, of course, we had the Decaflux. We're going to talk a little bit about that because Andy's got a few things to say on the whole Decaflux matter. Revolution 3, as we mentioned, the developments and carry on of that in terms of what we've been doing. We did a big update a mere few weeks ago. You can catch up with that after this live. If you go into our YouTube channel, you can listen to everything we said about MicroReg and Revolution 3. We had the Autark new dial. We had the Galactic Blue. That was an all new dial colorway we launched in that model as well. We had a new version of the Lensman 2. That's a world timer. We've never done a world timer before. We added that into the collection as well. We shipped the first batch of those within the last couple of weeks, and I know that they're definitely on people's wrists because I've had a few pictures sent to me by WhatsApp of their happy new owners. We also celebrated a big anniversary, the anniversary of that original Tourbillon 1. It's the 5th year since we launched that, and we did a
Yeah.
different but similar watch. The demand for that original Tourbillon 1 had never really abated, but we did make a promise once the orders were closed. That was it. So we did something similar style, similar vein, but the Tourbillon 2 skeleton that went to the market. And again,
And I
we'll
have
get to look
most
at
of
them
them
under
here, by the
Andy's
way.
super high profile camera.
Oh,
Look at that.
yeah,
A
yeah.
cacophony
Real
of
stuff,
watches. So that's we can get into those later. And then at the very end of the year, we launched the Autark Tourbillon GMT with the meteorite dial. That's a
Yeah.
limited edition of 50 pieces, and it's selling, well, extremely well, I have to say, even if we do say so ourselves. And there are a small handful of them left. So if you are considering it, definitely one to think about quickly, because I'm sure within the matter of the next few weeks, they will all be gone. So let's start with Decaflux, should we, Andy?
So let's start with Decaflux. Of course, we should do that. Because the whole thing, as the book underneath says, it's kind of an exercise, an engineering exercise, as always. And it has much more, the first slide said it already, it has much more meaning to us than we originally, or I mean, than people thought it has. So I'm going to explain, or let's explain a little bit what it all is and what it all was. It was a name created out of a meaning, decade of magnetic flux. We needed to make a new movement, and surprise, surprise, it looked like something, or it sounded like something else, and we never hired back with that basic understanding that it was kind of a, do you call that a homage or tribute kind of
homage
thing?
to
Tribute
me
probably
tends
is
to
the better word for
lean
that.
towards, well, a loose copy. And we didn't see this very much at all as a copy, but certainly it was, nodding our head, tipping our hat to what that watch from Rolex did to Milgauss back in the day, which was, well, really try to technically answer the problem about magnetism in watches. And we thought, well, how would we do that if we were going to do it with what we know today? So yes, it's got little nods. That lightning hand, a few people have pointed out, that was used in the Milgauss. Yes, it was, but it's also been used on Omegas and many other watches over the year. But it was really for us, how can we address what Rolex tried to address back then if they knew what we know now? I think that's probably the best way to describe it.
Sorry, I didn't set the time, obviously, and it came in different colors, and it resembled something which you see, this blue and white arrow style hand. And why was it all like this? So it is a little bit of a bet, I would say. We were betting that something will happen. I've been into patents and silicon stuff since the beginning of my watchmaking career. I'm not a watchmaker, but I teach sometimes once in a while IP strategy in the university. And then this case was front and center because it was one of the most interesting cases of the modern watch world, I would say, since 1996. I will say something about this later, but as any patent, it will expire, and in November 2022 that actually happened. And then some stuff didn't really happen, or we thought that probably some companies might react faster. On the other hand, there was Omega with the coaxial, where you cannot use silicon. And the third thing was, when there's the master in precision and performance, the crown, our neighbors, then, and there's a patent is down, which they have been actually controlling, then sooner or later they might have to do something. And that was my reasoning. And we reasoned in last year already, or 2 years ago, that Rolex actually will start going full silicon, full circle silicon, and perhaps that will be probably done with the Milgauss, which would have been logic. And as you can see on the north and south magnet thing here, that actually is a magnet which shows the magnetic flux around this magnet, and the steel components arranging around that. That's why this arrow is blue and red. And then, yeah, the time came in 19th of March 2025. We launched the Decaflux K3 with this whole story behind it, and surprise, surprise, 10 days later, and we didn't know that was just an assumption, Land Dweller was launched. So where have we been right?
There we go.
We have been right. I need to move you up a little bit, Dave. We have been right on the silicon movement, but we haven't been right on the name. Okay. Can't get everything right in life, but that was actually a good fun and right timing. And I have great respect from that step by the Crown. So that show a little bit of those beautiful parts which they have been put together. On the top right side, you see this full silicon spec escapement, which is not just a new escapement, not just silicon, it's also a new design, not invented at the end of the day by Rolex because it's an old idea, but executed in modern material, and we will see how much performance that will have. And it was a big thing. Actually,
yes, indeed, I think it's won many awards. And to be honest, in hindsight, they didn't bring back the Milgauss, but I think the Milgauss was a bit of a strange watch. It didn't really sit well within the naming nomenclature of the current Rolex range. And I think actually bringing an all-new model out called the Land Dweller, it finished that kind of triumvirate from them. You know, they've got the land, the water, and the sky now. So they've got the Sky Dweller, the Land Dweller, and the Sea Dweller. So I think actually it makes sense from them from a product perspective. We got that one wrong, but we definitely got the main bit right, which was that they were going to go with a full silicon escapement. And I think it's fair to say our watchmakers even had a good look at what they were doing with that escapement. And as only Rolex can do, because they're the big, they are the king, they are the crown, they're the one that has the deep pockets. They've done some pretty cool work on that one. That said, I think
and they have set a new standard, and I think justified currently they rule the market, and I recommend anybody to buy one for if there's some extra cash. And if you have bought that one,
what's your favorite phrase that you coined this year, Andy? The Horage is your second watch after your first Rolex, I believe it was. Yes. And I think it's fair to say, Rolex are extremely good.
Yes, it was like this. And I still believe it is like it is. It is really like that, because of course we cannot compare to that company when it comes to financial firepower or whatever. But from an engineering mindset point of view, I would say yes. And from a knowledge point of view, vertical and horizontal in manufacturing, I would also say yes. And probably we are a good second watch after that watch if you want something very comfortable.
And we also do a few things that they don't do company. If you're after a tourbillon.
Okay, so but we also do a few things don't do, but I think it's very important to really get an idea of why we pointed that out, and why Decaflux exists, and why we have done that, because it is from IP point of view, intellectual property, you call that what actually drives a company, that what's making a company better, faster, cheaper, whatever you want. The competitive edge is so important in watchmaking nowadays that, and people forget that a little bit, that is really relevant. And I'm moving you down a little bit again. So I'm showing you that's actually the current, or until beginning of the year, and still built in the majority of cases, the chronology escapement and the traditional spring underneath. And on the right side you see our stuff, which we have started a long time ago, not without friction. So there was some battles in between and in the backyard, in the watchmaking backyard, and we will sooner or later talk about that too. But how long actually that process took is crazy when you think about that. Something I'm teaching once in a while in university. And the question is, how long does it really take for technology to reach the market? And when we look very, very carefully, then 1992 was the date where silicon was brought into the world of micromechanical components, namely through the Bosch process. Everybody knows Bosch. Most of the companies still, people have a car with a Bosch fuse inside, and a Bosch wiper, and a Bosch controller, and whatever Bosch. So I would say the watch industry didn't really invent silicon for micromechanical components. That was actually Bosch. And then 1996, the famous research institute in Switzerland, which had ties obviously to Bosch, because Karlsruhe and Biel have they know each other. Then they started to file a lot of patents to make sure that nobody else can do that. And then it took effectively until 2025, until finally the market leader took all on this new technology, because before it was just not necessary. And that's the problem with being market leader and with having patents where they shouldn't be. That technology is withheld from the customer, and then that doesn't really bring any value. And I have made a lot of slides in the past. I'm just showing some of them, a little bit of fun. That was in 2016, 17. And what was the assumption? The assumption was that probably this watch group will be the big winner of the silicon game, and they were until 2017, 20, 22 perhaps. Nobody really imagined that Rolex does the final real leap, but they did, and then there were companies who actually lost out on it, and that's mainly a company called Ulyss Nada, the pioneer in the whole thing. They got squeezed into legal battles, sub-companies of them also, and ultimately carrying the big luxury powerhouse French, they left the market, because they couldn't really capitalize on something like this. And the next slide shows it. Yeah. And I had to change this slide, and surprise, surprise, out of a sudden there's a new winner, an unexpected winner taking it pretty much all, and the others left in the dust. And that was a very, very interesting scenario, a very interesting game which was played, and we were in the middle all the time, following since 2011, I would say 10, 11, everything which was happening around this whole silicon technology. So it was super exciting for anybody who is into IP strategy and
that's a
patents
30
and
year
technology.
Yeah, that's a 30-year plus timeline for silicon to go from broadly being thought about being used in watches up to a point where now most of the big players are playing with it to some degree. And I think something we thought about this year in 2025 was we believe that we are still the only brand where every single model that we produce within our entire catalog portfolio has got a full silicon escapement in it, that being the escape wheel, the fork, and the spring as well. Because as we know,
and
Omega are not using it in certain aspects. They do use some silicon components. Rolex, yes, they now have that full silicon escapement in the Land Dweller, but there's many other models that have partial silicon or no silicon. And again, even Ulyss Nardin, the pioneers of it, haven't moved to full silicon through all of their watches yet in the range. I think that's something that we're very proud of. It was due to a huge amount of work being done in the background for many years. And to be honest, taking that risk, because we knew that we had to take the risk. Without that risk, we wouldn't be where we are today. We definitely wouldn't be where we are today. We wouldn't have the chronometric performance that we have within our calibers and movements. But that said, it did come at a price, and that price was a lot of hard work and some occasional slightly scary nights where you weren't sure who was coming for you that day, but we got there in the end. Yes, knock, knock.
Knocking the door.
Yeah. Exactly.
Probably write a book about that down the road. That's probably something. It's like a thriller. Yeah, it is. I call it the silicon cartel.
We can laugh now, but it was the
around silicon.
We can laugh now, but it was the unfunny knock knock joke. Knock knock. Who's there? We're not in. Yes, exactly. So, well, we can move on to then again. That was the précis of what we did and why Decaflux came.
Yeah.
But
this was one part of the Decaflux thing, and the other part was this road to USA thing. Everybody was scratching his head at what the hell are they doing here? It's a pioneering thing. Yeah, it was a pioneering.
And when we first launched the Decaflux, we had two editions. We had the black dial and the blue dial, and the white dial came only a mere few weeks, couple of months after we launched it. And this was something that is still very much a ongoing project. And it's called the Pioneer Edition because, well, as many people who know a little bit of history of watchmaking, the United States was arguably, and actually definitively, the home of industrialized watchmaking, where it really did begin. And yes, most of that has transferred into Switzerland, Japan, and a little bit in Germany nowadays, with very little in the US. But we thought there are many companies, people, individuals in the US really trying to see if they can bring back that narrative to the United States. And we thought, well, a favourite phrase within our business as well is, I think, is it Andy? Buy from the best, not from the passport. We are a Swiss-based company, but we are not hung up on it must be done in Switzerland. Yes, Switzerland is definitively the best at certain things within watchmaking at this point in time. But does that mean there are not other places that can do great work as well? And we know there are plenty of people in America, at a small scale albeit, doing some great work in watchmaking. And there are some bigger entities really trying hard to get established, doing things that, to be honest, many people would be surprised at what they're actually doing in the US. And we thought, we have know-how, we have IP, we have a will, and we have people that are willing to, well, try and disseminate some of that information. So part of that project.
And that's why we actually, I mean, people in the beginning understood it in the wrong way, I think. Also, they said, oh, you're going to America now, set up a factory, tomorrow everything works. No, of course not. We are selling to America since 10 years, more than 10 years. We know all our customers. I have heard so often, and I totally understand it, it's not because of Donny. We will come to that also. I mean, I can switch in here. I don't want to give him too much airtime for that. But there are some things out there which happen, and we are in this kind of relatively unpredictable world. So we need to rethink a little bit the way we do our business probably, and why not going closer to our customers? That was the basic idea, and I've heard that so often when we have been talking to our customers in the US. And the thing is very simple, why not bringing what we do closer to the people? And people are coming to us, and we are talking a lot about what we do here in Biel. And so we can't fly half from America to Switzerland. Also, of course, everybody's welcome here. And that was the beginning. So we did that with Bremont, by the way. We were reasoning about Germany also, but we didn't find a German watch company who had the guts to really say, okay, let's do that now. We can't do that by ourselves. We have all the know-how, but we cannot run two factories just like that, by ourselves. So you need to start the conversation somewhere. You need to actually talk to people who think, okay, that's a good idea. That is not just a good idea; it's also a good investment to do it because it's not for.
And I think it's fair to. I think it's. I think it's fair to say, we get lots of visitors to the atelier, and it's usually the point where they visit us that it pushes them over the edge of. We're not really sure who you are, kind of heard of you, seen some stuff on the internet, but actually they come and they get a real definitive feeling about what we're actually doing. And as Andy says, we can't bring half the world to us. And actually, the United States is a huge market for us. And if we can have some form of system and emplacement there where we're doing things, then it allows us to engage. The tariffs, of course, came along after this plan was in action. And, well, it's not.
People thought it's the tariffs that we do that.
But now that it's all settled down,
it was for sure not at all. I don't dream a lot in business, and I think people shouldn't dream too much. They should rather think reasonable about what they do. And I'm not the vision guy.
Measure your doctor,
when you have visions, please visit your doctor. But at the end of the day, there's one thing I would really like to show is that with modern technology, when you really have control over your IP, that you can bring watchmaking closer to people. And the fact that Donny actually started his whole tariff war just made it more obvious that we probably need to think as an industry and as a community about tearing down borders a little bit and making quality available, not only because you have a Swiss passport or a German passport, but because you actually live a certain quality mentality. And that can be done everywhere on the planet. And so why not? So anybody who believes that this is an interesting thing to do, please reach out to me. We are open for business, and I would do nothing more I love to do nothing more than bringing our technology into the United States.
And then we actually had a great opportunity. We've been in the States a lot. We do at least 4, if not 5 or 6 events in the United States every year to try and get over there to engage with, people who love watches, because as we've mentioned, that's what it's all about. People buy from people, and we want to put our product and ourselves in front of people. At Wind Up, which we've been going to now for a good few years, we went to the very original ones. Then we hadn't been for many years. Then we started going a few years ago. And since we've been back, we've been on many panels. We got to talk all about this Road to the USA concept. There's a video that is on the Wind-Ups YouTube channel. We can share that in the chat, the link to that there as well, so that if you want to go and have a listen to, well, an hour's worth of what we're talking about here in a condensed matter, feel free to go and have a little look at it over on their YouTube channel as well. So that's Decaflux, Andy. We then should, well, briefly touch on the whole Quest to Zero concept, because we did a big episode a couple of weeks ago about that, but we could maybe just touch on it quickly because, well, it was a big part of 2025. Feel free to go and have a little look at it.
Yeah. 1 second. Good. I just need
so if you can flip the slide over. The Quest to Zero, that was a project that was, well, not technically launched in 2025 because it was towards the back end of 2024. We announced that as well. But we did announce at the time that it was going to take around a year and a half to come to fruition, that being around summer 2026. We did a big update at the back end of 25, around about the middle of December, just bringing folk up to date with what we were doing. We've got watches running now with the caliber, with all of the technology baked in. They are on people's wrists within the business now as well. The tool, we've got, well, not quite the final tool, but we have got working tools up and running, and we've got prototypes and 3D printed variants of what will be almost the final tooling as well. And it's really all about the software package that we have to deploy to allow people to utilize the tool and the technology to get what we want to do, which is, well, we can quickly put it on live if you've got it there, Andy. Yeah, that would be good. Any questions, please jump into the chat and drop any queries, questions that you want to see as well, because we can answer them. If you see me looking away from the screen, I'm just quickly checking out the comments. Sue's also in the background replying to things as well. There we go. That greeny blue, I think we mentioned already that it's a colour we call peacock, because depending on the light, you get this kind of green colorway, which I would say is the most dominant color, but when you hit it in certain lights, you just get a bluish, greenish reflection on there as well. Of course, the big thing about this watch is it's a little bit of an oxymoron. It's the caliber's upside down so that you can actually see the technology, which means that on the front of it, you've got the time telling disc. You tell the time down at 6 o'clock. There's a little red marker, and you can tell the time in 5-minute increments there. And a lot of people have said, yeah, but that's mad, because the watch can be accurate to almost zero deviation. Well, who actively tells the time to the nearest second day to day? But, well, like many things, the tricks in the party is in the back room. And if Andy flips the watch over, we can see what's going on there. We have the ability to tell the time to, well, the nearest second or splits of a second on there as well. You've got the hours, minutes, and seconds.
And why did we not make a reverso? We should also answer that question.
Well, yeah, the big issue, of course, is some folk have said
getting one side correct. So it's more than just a watch for us. This is a very, very important product for this industry, for our company, and we need to make 100% sure that we don't get lost in some other things. And that is an iconic product which shows this insane technology. Piezoelectric movement without electrics inside, kind of magic creating a movement which remote controls the screwdriver or the watchmaker.
It's a fully mechanical, completely mechanical movement, completely regular regulation technology and escapement on there as well. Effectively, our technology allows adjustments to be made to the regulation of the watch without opening the case, without intervening in the watch, without compromising seals, and with no holes. Yeah, you get a wee bit blue there now as well. And by passing a electric current or a resonant frequency across the watch case, we're allowed to be able to adjust screws in a very, very fine adjustment range, which means we can make adjustments down to that 0.1 second increment. We're not regulating it to a de facto standard. Of course, all of our watches that we produce are well within COSC standards. But what it does do is what we should always be doing. It allows you to personally regulate the watch to how you wear it, to what you do with your watch, and to how you interact with your watch, which ultimately means that your watch will be running as close to zero deviation as you wish it to do for what you're doing whilst you wear your watch, which ultimately is the aim of the game. We can all regulate watches to a de facto standard, but if that standard doesn't match what you're doing day to day, well, it's a little bit of a moot point at that point in time. Pardon the pun. Very cool indeed.
Pretty cool, huh?
Oh yeah, you were just getting.
I just forgot that we are actually in a live. You
Yeah,
see the different
Andy
cameras,
was
by the
getting
way. That's a Sony,
fixated
that's
by
Canon.
his new media
Just wanted to
studio.
clarify that
So
thing.
we've talked a lot about the ecosystem. Maybe you can show the tooling there as well if you wish, Andy. You can see some pictures here.
Yeah. The tooling, that's actually, let me go here, prompter. That's what actually makes this movement. We also show it a little bit from that it actually moves by pure geometric, how do you say, genius design. You actually deform material in a way with vibration that it actually can change the direction of a moving part. And that's how it works, yeah. So very, very, it's a very, very fascinating technology, and we are determined to bring this to the market, and everybody who has been supporting that is, we are very happy with this support, and we are overwhelmed. Just today, again, another person committing. By the way, beginning in January, we will increase the price a little
commencing.
bit, as said from the beginning. 4,750.
Well, you technically, so I think the date that we had decided was the 5th of January at the end of that day. So technically, just before we fall over from Monday the 5th into Tuesday the 6th, the price will go up to 4,750 Swiss francs. That is, of course, remember, considerably lower than the final retail price, which is in the 6,900 Swiss franc category. So you're still getting an amazing deal, but the window of opportunity is still there to acquire one at 4,500 Swiss francs, which is the price it's been since merely a couple of months after it launched. Only the very, very earliest people getting the initial VVIP price of 3,900. That's because, well, they bought a watch with nothing other than a little bit of hope and some CGIs, and well, fair play to all these people that jumped in at that point. But of course, as we get closer to the reveal of the product in terms of it going into the marketplace, we should hopefully, over the coming 6 to 9 months, see these watches on people's wrists.
And just to make sure what it really is, it's the first Swiss mechanical watch that can be externally adjusted on a wearing profile. And that has some implications, means that we are talking about the global leadership in superchronometry and an unsolved problem since the invention of the mechanical watch. There were many attempts, many patents, even 100 years old, but as of now, nobody really managed to do that in a cost-effective, stable and controllable way. And I think we have done that, and we have this IP in our hands, and with the help of all these people supporting this project, we will build a cool company out of that, making better watches for the community at the end of the day, for the people who like watches. That's what it is. But I will come back to that later, why we are actually doing all that.
Yeah, we move on to the next one. And the next one is,
moving to the next thing,
the first time we've ever done a world timer. This one based on the Lensman 2 model. We'd previously launched that model a couple of years ago with the Exposure. That was the first time anyone had ever done a bezel slide rule calculator that allowed people to use the Sunny 16 rule. So taking the different light conditions and your ISO of your film and being able to work out your f-stops and your shutter speeds on there, taking that as a model and utilizing it as a world timer. So this is quite an interesting watch. We can look at it live, yes, and I'm also wearing mine as well, and you can see the blue here. So this one is a grade 5 titanium exoskeleton around a 6000 series hard anodized aluminum main shell. I can't believe I said aluminum. I'm British. I should say aluminium. That's terrible, terrible, terrible way of saying that. But yes, for our American friends, an aluminum center core in there as well. Titanium bezel, titanium caseback. using our
And with a
K2
beautiful
caliber. That's the
movement.
3.6 millimeter variant of it, that being 3.6 millimeters thick. This has our GMT functionality. So in this, you've got the ability to, well, tell the time in the vast majority of the different time zones of the world using this rotatable bezel on there as well. And you've got that independent GMT functionality in this new, well, really cool blue, a light blue colorway. I think this is super nice. This is one of my favorite watches. The Lensman 2 for me has always been up there in my top 5 watches that we produce. I'm not the world's, well, I like taking a photograph.
And the biggest problem of that watch
people get a
is
bit funny
that you have to put it on the wrist.
Yeah.
Because
Correct.
everybody think it's huge or something like this, you know, but it's not. It's absolutely not. And
well, we can hear.
I cannot put it so
and I've not
on the
got a
wrist,
huge wrist.
I
But yeah, it's
give
interesting.
you an
Square
idea.
watches, people tend to get a little hung up on square watches. It's technically actually a round watch with a square case, I think is more accurate, but it's very slim, well under 10 millimeters in thickness there as well. So super slim to the wrist. And definitely with those very short lugs, extremely compact. I think I've got somewhere in the region of a 16-inch, not 16-inch, 16-centimeter wrist, which is fairly small, not a huge watch, but as you can see from this, it's definitely not a large. Yeah, it's all about the wristage now.
Lots of wrists here now. And you see, that I don't fake that.
Absolutely.
Really
so you can see it there. So yes, this cameras. One launched, well, around about the middle towards the 2/3 of the way through the year. And we've now delivered all of the pre-orders of it. And in fact, we have a very small amount of stock available immediately on these watches as well. This will stay within the core range of our offering, but this watch is now available ex stock as well. So if anyone is thinking about it, has maybe been waiting for it to be available, the time has come for that watch to be available. So that was our K2 GMT Globe in the Lensman 2 range. Then we also did something a little interesting, Andy. What's the next one you've got queued up for us? Which was, it didn't cost 100 million. Yes.
Yeah. And I don't have the watch, by the way.
It did not. This cast herself back.
Yeah, didn't cost 100 million. It cost a couple of million. I mean, what was the whole backstory? We came out. Our coming out was through Kickstarter after 6-7 years of developing a movement, and then anybody said it's impossible. The guys are cheating, and then Zach from One and Round was coming over and proved that it's correct, and so we came to life. And 10 years later, we thought, why not doing that fun project again and issuing a couple of limited editions with a specifically printed case back as our tribute to Kickstarter, which is still an insanely cool platform. I mean, currently we see a lot of CNC machines there.
Yeah, isn't it funny, Andy? You know, we both have bought many things from Kickstarter, some cool little gizmos and gadgets that we definitely didn't need, but they were definitely cool. And I think Kickstarter went through a phase of really being the starting ground for many a watch brand, many successful ones out there, some who came and went and some who unfortunately, well, didn't make it the whole way through. But we are one of the brands that, well, we didn't get started by Kickstarter, but I guess put our brand name and some of our watches out into the marketplace. It was really a thank you to say to people, for a limited period, for a limited number of watches, we did offer them at the 10-year anniversary point of originally doing it for the original price, which was something we did just really as a little bit of a thank you to the market for all the support they've given us.
And somehow, you know, they are rare in our company. They're always gone, you know. The ones mine was anyhow stolen, and somehow they're always gone because it is still this type of product where you get reminded to a very long history, and it was these early days were crazy. When you now look behind me now here, you know, that's a new atelier. And it took a lot of time and a lot of money, but as said, it didn't cost 100 million. You know, okay, it cost around 30 million altogether. If you put everything together, invested over time, I would say that's roughly the ticket you need to think about. That's why I also said, when you think about doing stuff in the US, don't believe that's just for the fun of it. You can't do watches for the just fun of it. You need to really think of it as a profitable business, which needs to be profitable. That's why we also can give away our watches for free. I'm sorry for that.
Yeah.
But I think most people understand that. Most people understand if you want to have a good product, you need to put a lot of people into doing that, and you need to invest a lot in manufacturing and into engineering. And this history is the best proof that
you can't. And if you want to have good people doing good work, unfortunately, you have to look after them. Well, not unfortunately, you do have to look after them, but unfortunately, none of them come cheap, and you have to make sure that they're all well looked after to get great products out at the end. But yes, and then there was another anniversary, one that wasn't a 10-year anniversary, but it was a 5th anniversary. We couldn't believe it. It kind of crept up on us without us actually realizing, which was that it was 5 years since we had announced our desire to bring the Tourbillon to the market, something that, well, we know possibly upset a few people who believe the Tourbillon is the golden goose of the Swiss watch industry, and we brought the Tourbillon 1 to life. By no means an inexpensive watch, but compared to its peers and compared to what the industry is typically offering for a properly engineered, fully Swiss-made Tourbillon, not just a Tourbillon, a flying Tourbillon nonetheless as well, with silicon technology all baked into it as well. 5 years, we couldn't quite believe it. And it got us thinking. We have, of course, grown much upwards from when we brought that first Tourbillon 1 out. We've done other hand-wound tourbillons, we've done Lensmans, we've also moved into micro-rotor tourbillon automatics as well. But we wanted to say, well, how could we possibly look to do something that folk have been asking us every single day since we stopped producing the Tourbillon 1, which was, can I have a Tourbillon 1, please? I'm afraid you can't, because we made a promise. Only the original people, and once it was closed, it was closed. And how could we bring something that was, well, the spiritual successor to the original? And that is, of course, the Tourbillon 2 skeleton. Something that's always featured on the Tourbillon 2 is a dial. Something that's also always featured is numerals, things that did not feature, of course, on that original Tourbillon 1. So we had to have a dial. But then it's a skeleton watch. How do we keep it, well, skeletonized? It's a sapphire disc around the edge there, which also allowed us to have that Tourbillon 2 number set, Roman numeral set on there as well. And it's interesting. I think personally, when you hold both the Tourbillon 1 and the Tourbillon 2 skeleton side by side, I definitely know which one is the even more refined product that is, well, the 5 years of development that's been since those two products came out. It really shows for my side on that Tourbillon 2. And this is a model that, again, was a limited edition of 50 pieces. And, well, they've all gone. So the last one sold a mere week or two ago, and that was the last piece of that sold. And we produced that both in stainless steel, yellow gold, which is an 18 karat 3N honey gold, and also in an 18 karat white gold option as well. Of course, the gold options being much rarer than the stainless steel ones, but this also features the bracelet, the stainless steel bracelet that was designed for Tourbillon 2, which has a little point to note. If you do have a Tourbillon 1 and you fancy a bracelet, these are available separately, and it also fits onto, of course, the Tourbillon 1 case. So if you do fancy a bracelet on your original Tourbillon 1, the bracelets are available. Pretty cool. Without giving anything away, because Sue will quite literally take me to task and murder me, there is developments coming in Tourbillon for 2026. You won't have long to wait. I think you've not got so long to wait, maybe around about the 2nd or 3rd month of the year. Keep your ears open and your eyes peeled, because there's some exciting Tourbillon news coming as well. All I'll say is, one question we've been asked a lot is, would you be able to make a Tourbillon in a slightly smaller size? Hope that doesn't give too much away, but if that's something that you're considering or you've been waiting for, well, you don't have too much longer to wait. Cool watch.
Yeah, what should I say? I'm actually
interested. It's such a great watch, and the quality of the cameras.
I mean, you know, the cool thing on this camera stuff is you see your own stuff in such high resolution, and then it gets you actually a little bit grounded, because you can see everything. And that also means we need to be even more and more picky and careful and on our manufacturing process. And not a lot of people understand that, yeah. And that also means the less every flaw actually creates cost, and not accepting flaws means costs going up, and we need to be able to control that, and that means better technology, better process.
As we
hopefully, our team can
every day is a school day, and as we say, cost comes from not knowing, and putting our watches under ultra high definition cameras is a learning process for us. But yes, that is the 5th anniversary Tourbillon 2 Skeleton. Sadly, all sold out now as well, but definitely keep your eyes peeled because, well, there's lots of things coming on the Tourbillon front from us through 2026 and onwards. So what's next in the rota? So the next one we came up was, well,
the next Tourbillon.
Let's go side by side. The one that we launched most recently, a mere few weeks ago, which we believe, and we are very happy to be proven wrong if someone can, but we don't think you will be able to. This is the latest version of the Autark Tourbillon, but this time, of course, incorporating the GMT functionality into the KTMR caliber. So this is our micro rotor automatic flying tourbillon with GMT functionality. The first model in the GMT range being a limited edition with a meteorite dial. This one being a limited piece of 50. This one is still available, albeit it is quickly selling through. We are considerably over 3/4 of the way to these all being sold out, but there are still a number available. So if you are considering it, every time we do meteorite, they do tend to vanish very quickly. And when we combine meteorite and tourbillon, well, they go even more quickly. The amazing thing about this is it's managed to stay in our grade 5 titanium case that is only 8.8 millimeters in thickness, so no additional thickness added, even though we've built in the GMT functionality there. You've also got that little day-night indicator at 9 o'clock. You see it's a white at the moment, which means, well, it's just showing on the watch round about 11 minutes past midday, but of course what you've got optionalized on there as well is it will go fully black at midnight and in the darkness hours, and you'll see it transition between black and white going into the evening and coming into the daylight as well. So that is a pretty impressive piece there, very well received by the market in terms of uptake. There we go, you can see the little darkness creeping in from the bottom right hand corner. And it's now coming through as we head up towards the midnight hour, the hour of darkness. If you live in Scotland where I am, it's pretty much dark all day, so we would need to have a special edition. We do. I need a permanent dark day-night indicator for the winter in Scotland. But hey, it managed to get up to have...
What is the next time zone after 1 hour?
I think the next time zone we move to is just called dark. I think that's what we'll call it as we move towards the North Pole. We're merely
you are 1 hour behind. Yeah,
I think Iceland is the next time zone, and then you're into, well, Arctic time, which is, well, a whole different level of not fun. It managed to get up to a very warm, sunny temperature today of -4 degrees Celsius. So I managed to go out for a walk today and not quite froze myself to death. But there we go. So that was the final. Well, no,
that anyhow doesn't happen.
Well,
because you're going out with a t-shirt.
Live in the north, I'm used to the cold. Everyone at Horage is fascinated by the fact that I never wear a jacket. That's because when I go to Switzerland, it feels like I've gone to the tropics for my holidays. But yes, I do run rather hot, I have to say. So that is a great looking watch, the final edition of the year. Nice? And those little orangey kind of terracotta reddish marks just on the rehot ring, just adding a little bit of color and lifting it a little bit, because otherwise, of course, with the grey meteorite and the grey titanium and the silver hands, it could all be a little bit grey, but just that little pop of color in there just to lift things up. All the appliques fully filled with superluminova.
The only competitive product is at the moment,
and by competitive, quite a lot more expensive. Correct? And quite a lot
GMT,
more expensive.
But there is no GMT. But from performance point of view, I mean, I'm a big fan of Washer Manufacture movements because I know who built actually the factory. Florian. So I think that's the only watch movement maker which really moved the needle and really has the breadth and the depth
Yeah.
of doing new stuff besides the big guys. And logically, Parmigiani is built on such movements.
It
However,
does.
it needs a little bit deeper pockets. Yeah.
That's a
Not
very
exactly
different equation. Affordability is
affordable,
all
is
about
something
how much
different.
money you've
Yeah.
got and how much you're willing to spend. But value for money is a very different equation as well. And we always like to feel that we deliver amazing value proposition for what we're
Yeah.
offering as a technical solution. And of course, a beautiful watch that you can wear on your wrist. And well, you can tell the time with a mere glance of your wrist. You don't have to pull out that pesky mobile phone. We're all guilty of it, but something about having a wristwatch on.
And this whole, I mean, some people say tourbillons are useless, but that's not true. First of all, we can more easily pass cost with that because you don't have the position error. Second,
Yep.
it is
It
just
is the
insanely entertaining
modern
to look at it
equivalent of a
all the time,
fidget spinner
you know.
because, well, if you're
By the way, I'm tending to wear more and more two
what
watches.
I
One on the
wonder where you
left
get
and
that
one on
idea
the
from,
right
Andy, eh?
side of my
Wonder where
wrist,
you get
like
that
you do
idea
that.
from. Yes, the double wristing idea. Absolutely. But
Yeah.
let's we're getting tight for time, so maybe we should just go along on to the next slide. So that was the full remit of
Yeah.
watches, but
Good.
big stuff. Lots of
So
stuff.
product, lots of products, crazy stuff when you think about we do so much product.
Indeed.
Sometimes I'm surprised that we actually do all of that, but we do it. And but we also need to do other things, and these other things are related to what I'm doing here, with this video stuff. The way we sell products, all that nice products don't help
Correct.
anything when we don't manage to sell them. And there, I think most of the people who watch our stuff are in daily life and somehow confronted with transition of our cultures and businesses. And one of these huge transitions we all see is how our products being sold and how our products being bought, namely through the internet. But obviously that's not enough. So we need to think a little bit further than that. And our main goal in the next year, I would say, is how are we going to sell as a direct brand? We are a direct brand, but that doesn't mean we are just running an online shop. We are trying to find ways to
The conundrum,
solve
indeed.
how do you call that, conundrum or whatever? This, the kind of, how do you actually scale a direct brand beyond an online shop? Because when you stick with your online shop, you actually will not going to succeed. Many companies figure that out after it's too late or before. Luckily, we found that out since 15 years already. But solving that problem is not so easy. And the ones who have a lot of cash do it by building boutiques, which we don't want to do, because that will inevitably make all our watches much more expensive than what they are now. Some others do clubhouse stuff. Yeah, then you also need some expensive watches like AP. You can pay for that and it's cool. I know that. But I don't know if it's sustainable. And then we hang out on events all the time, but that is also something which you can't do forever. So we have introduced our expert model, which is called concierges. You can find it on the website. But also a concierge is living in a place, and if it's several hundred kilometers away from a person who wants to talk to us, then we need to obviously use video. And video, which you can see here, is the thing which we going to cultivate further, because it helps us to show our products in a high resolution environment and talk live to us. So we are building this networks of people in the important places like New York, like Taipei, like Shanghai, like Hong Kong, or coming here to our place. And hopefully this local network is growing. And if this is not enough, we actually started to experiment with this whole video stuff, which started during COVID at the end of the day. So that's how it looked in the beginning. And now it looks a little bit more professional. So you see, I'm sitting here beside this super cool, how to say, I need to move you around. Shit. Sorry.
No swearing. We're live on the
I
internet.
didn't want to do that. So do it like that. Yeah. So we professionalized that whole thing, and that's my video table. And on top you see that camera, and on the right is the output of the whole thing. And we believe that this is something we are some of the first who are able to do that. And
Yes.
I have a lot of fun doing that, by the way. It's not just that that it's for the sake of doing something. It's also fun doing this. But it
Wizardry.
needs a lot of technological understanding, I would say. Yeah, you need to be
Correct.
willing to get into it. And some people say, that's not for us or whatever. I don't know. Yeah, and then we have been talking technology. We've
No,
been in
I
Barcelona. You
let
have
the
been with us
engineers
there.
go because, of course,
Um,
Onshape is a
I had
significant system that, well,
yeah,
many of you may not be aware, but before the movements ever become a real thing, they live on Onshape, which is our design and realization software package. We are one of the, well, not quite the original, but one of the very early adopters of this system, and it has led onwards, and we've now become involved with those guys. Over 2026, you will see some cool content, I believe, coming from both ourselves and Onshape. But Andy and a couple of the guys from the
yeah,
engineering team headed off down to Barcelona, where they had a bit of a conference.
Barcelona to the Onshape conference, and we talked a little bit about what we do and how we use Onshape. And as I said, we love Onshape. It's true because it gave us this speed no other software could ever give us, and we saw it in 2015. And this gentleman here in the middle to the right of me is John Hirschtick. He's kind of, I would say, yes, probably the legend in computer-aided design software, because he effectively started two companies. One was SolidWorks, which gave a lot of the competitors a very hard time, managed to build that company. And his uniqueness was he saw the Microsoft desktop coming, and he said, okay, design must be available for more people than just for people who run server farms. And so SolidWorks took the market by storm, was sold to Dassault Systems. And then out of a sudden the cloud came around, and he saw it again and said, I think it's time for doing something new. And he started Onshape and blended modern computer-aided design technology with gaming technology. That's pretty much what it is. And built the first fully collaborative computer-aided design system platform. And this is going to take the whole market again. And he actually sold it to PTC, which is a very big computer-aided design company. And they are building that out, and we will see crazy stuff coming from that. We have been on this developers day, customer day in Barcelona, and people were talking about what is to come. And I can tell you the future is bright. We will see better, faster, insanely cool engineering capabilities. And hopefully we will get this whole integrated into our machinery and manufacturing processes. But there's a lot to come, and that means there will be better products down the road, 100% sure. So technology will be
it will be one of the primary drivers, whether it be via our video conferencing and video concierge, or whether it be the actual manufacturing and design processes within the business. Well, for 2026, of course, we are still going to be out on the road at most of the major fairs. That will be the team from Beal. Many of our local concierge will also be doing many other local events at a more regional level. They will be added into the area of the website that documents all of our events and all of our where we'll be at. But for sure, and more Taiwan, in the US, more in the UK, more in Europe. But these are the big ones that we know of as of today. So we'll be at Wind Up. The first one we're going to be up is going to be, actually the first event we're going to be is in Switzerland. The first event will be in Switzerland in January, which is the Moine Startup Camp. All about startup businesses, really cool bunch of guys. We went along last year. That was Andy, Leo, and myself. And we got to speak to some, well, incredibly cool people doing, well, cool things. And there were also a few pretty mad people, but sometimes it takes someone with a little bit of a screw loose to get a good idea off the ground. But if Andy goes back to the calendar, after that, we will be in the US 4 times minimum as a team. We'll be at the Dallas show, we'll be at San Francisco, we'll be in Chicago, and we will be doing something in New York towards the back end of the year as well. In the UK,
I, by the way, forgot one topic which I wanted to talk about, but we can do that different time. We are going to produce a couple of documentaries also, which will then come along with these events and some screenings in some cinemas. And,
Indeed.
Some people know that from Chasing Microns. So there's a lot to come.
Yeah.
And of course, UK, Germany, Switzerland.
And many other shows in between at a more regional level. We've missed out Taiwan, but the guys in Taiwan, they have their great catalogue of events that they do. They've been doing some amazing events, and Ming, our concierge in Hong Kong, has again also been doing some cool stuff. We will have a worldwide cinema tour coming up as well, because we've got our second of our big documentaries. We made the first one a few years ago, Chasing Microns, and we have one, well, we'll not give the game away, but let's just say it's about the journey of Tourbillon, and that's something that's coming up that will be released within the next couple of months. We will be releasing at a special event that we'll be having in Berlin, because we should also mention that event. We host a concert, a classical music concert in Berlin. We've been doing it now for 10 years. This is the 10th anniversary of that show coming up for 2026. You should go along if you want. There is a page on our website. Just go into the website, horage.com, and you can check out the page all about the Berlin concert. The tickets are very... It is in the community section. Forum. If you go in there, there's a whole section in the community section of the website. Go to the top left-hand corner, see the hamburger menu. You will see the community section, and they can share it with us. There's a hamburger up in the top left-hand side. Just show them how to get there, Andy. See the hamburger menu. Click there. Go into community. And then within community, you see the Berlin concert. The tickets are super inexpensive. It takes place in March, and it's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Pardon me. Had to have a cough there.
So go back. And
we're at the end. The other thing we have to say is we're going to remember to say this every time. We've got a new community way to communicate with us via WhatsApp. It's a system we call SleekFlow, but it all operates through your regular WhatsApp. If you scan this QR code, if it's not on the screen long enough, you can just click back into YouTube after the live and you can scan it, and you can add yourself into our community group. You can talk to us one-on-one if you've got questions about products, questions about what we do, questions about where we're going to be. Please feel free to drop it into the chat and we will chat away. We can chat on a one-to-one private basis, and as and when we've got anything big and interesting, we can push out messages to you to let you know that there's another live on, or we're going to be at an event in your region as well.
By the way, I also posted it into that chat, so we can afterwards put some links into that.
So we can check there anyone that wants to follow us and keep up with what we're doing. And we're pretty much...
So do we
can look at some high resolution. Let's look at a few watches. We've gone just over the hour, but we managed to cram a huge amount into that last hour. Hopefully it's been interesting for anyone that's watching along with us as well. Of course, Christmas has passed, but New Year is merely around the corner. So we are going to wish everyone that's in the Horage community a wonderful and happy New Year. And hopefully 2026 will be an amazing year, whether it's on your family front, your personal front, or your work front. I'm sure it's a big year ahead. Certainly we know we've got some amazing things coming up, things you don't know about yet, and of course fruitions of projects that you know lots about. For example, the watch Andy's showing now, that being the Revolution 3, that is going to be on people's wrists in 2026. And I know that there are at least 250 something people pretty excited about having those watches on their wrists in the next months ahead. So Andy, anything final you have to say, or is it a case of Happy New Year and please don't drink too much and behave yourselves? Absolutely.
Happy New Year, I would say. So then last time they said we cut off too quickly. I think we need to say goodbye. Then
so
wait
thank
a
you
little
all
bit,
for
and
tuning
then I
in.
press that
Thanks
button.
very much for listening. We'll be hopefully doing lives regularly through 2026, every couple of weeks at the minimum. So we will take time to speak to you